You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
Good day, class.
So guys, today we will be talking about solving equations by completing the square. We all know I've always said that there are other ways you can solve equations, either by factoring or by using the quadratic formula, which I call the almighty formula, and so on. But if you've been specifically told to use completing the square, this is how you go about it. So there will be three objectives for today's lesson. The first one will be to write in completed square form. So let me write that down. So the first lesson objective we will have is to write, hopefully that should write in completed square form. This is the first thing we want to know, yeah? Write in completed square form. So say I was to give you something like x squared plus 6x minus 5, and I say write this equation or write this expression in completed square form. What I want you to do is what I'm going to show you now. Now, before you can write in completed square form, you want to be at least able to understand how to put these sort of things into a kind of equal parts to the left side and the right side. What do I mean? To keep your equation balanced, you want to be able to make sure that you know what you're doing from the start before you write in completed square form. So the first thing I want to do with this is, first step, if I take it step by step, it will help you to understand it better, is to make sure this constant number here is moved to the right hand side. I'm going to repeat that. We want to put this constant number away from all these letters. All right. So what I want to do is to change the color of my pen. Hope I can get that sorted. So if I can change that so you can see the various steps I am going to be using. So I want to write x squared plus 6x equals 5. Can you see? Because this is a negative 5. If it goes to the other side, it becomes a positive number there. Now the second step is to make sure, let's change that color. Let's change, come on now. The second step, if we take it step by step, it will help, is to make sure that this coefficient here, yeah, that we, okay, let me just write it. Add something to both sides to balance it up. Add something to both sides. I hope you're writing this down. To both sides to balance it up, okay? So to balance it, I am going to take this coefficient here. I'm going to half it and square root, and I'll do the same thing on that side. So I'm going to have x squared plus 6x plus, because that's a positive, isn't it? I'm going to half that number and I'm going to square it, equals 5, and I'm going to put exactly what I've got there, plus 6 over 2, and I'm going to square it. All right. So I'm going to take a new colored pen again. How does it keep writing that? Control C. Okay. And I'm going to go to a new slide. Hopefully you've all copied that bit. So s squared plus 6x, yeah? I'll rewrite it here. S squared plus 6x plus, because I have to add something to both sides, 6 over 2, and then I square it, because there was a 5 here, and I have to add something to that side as well, and I'm going to square it. So this becomes x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 5 plus 9. This becomes x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 14. Now that equation is balanced on both sides. But to make it into a perfect square, we then put our brackets into a square. Can you see? Now what can go in here? What goes in here is half of this middle number here of the coefficient of x. So that would be plus 3, okay, equals 14. And so this bit here is in perfect square, because if you expand x plus 3 squared, you're going to get this bit here, okay? So this will lead to this, yeah? So now it's in perfect square. Let's get another color of pen there. So it's in perfect square now. It's in perfect square. But remember, the question was that you write that expression you were given in completed square form. So to write it in completed square form, all I have to do now is just to write x plus 3 all squared minus 14. And that will be the answer that we've written it in completed square form. Okay, so the first step has to be adhered to, which is get rid of that constant number there, take it to the right side, then add something to both sides to make it balanced. Now what you have to add to both sides is half of that coefficient of the middle one there, and you square it. Yeah, you do the same thing to the other side, and then you solve, you do whatever you need to do, and then you then put it into a perfect square, and that's how you write in completed square form. Now this is just a step-by-step into how we can solve by completing the square, but we are taking it bit by bit. Now, if you're told to, we'll do one more example later, but because they are all of the same step, let's carry on for now. If you're told to find the missing part of a perfect square, I've shown you what a perfect square looks like, in this case, this one, and I'm asking you to find this missing part, for example. Can you see we're still going to go through the same step? So let's just carry on. So if I have something like, sorry, let's take that off. If I have something like x squared minus 4x plus 7 equals x minus 2 squared plus q. And I say, find the value of q. So let's write that down. Find the value of q. Same procedure we followed. So first thing I want to do is to get rid of this constant number. So basically they want you to put it in perfect squares and then find that later. So first step, remember our first step, I'm going to get rid of that constant number. And if I put it on that side, it becomes negative 7, won't it? Yes, good. The second step is to make sure that I make it balanced on both sides. And how do I make it balanced? I add something to both sides. And what do I add? The half of that coefficient there, in this case, negative 4 over 2, all squared. And I do the same thing on the other side. Let's get another color of pen there. And add whatever I have added on that side to the other side. I don't like the color of that pen. Let's change that. So now this becomes x squared minus 4x. Minus 4 over 2 is minus 2. Minus 2 times minus 2 is plus 4. So you have plus 4 equals minus 7 plus 4. Yeah? So this becomes x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals minus 3. All right? So now it's balanced on both sides, but I've got to now put it into a perfect square by doing this. Remember, that's a perfect square. Now, what goes in here? What goes in here is half of the coefficient here, yeah, which is your minus 2 in this case. All right? If you expand this, you're going to get this bit here. If you expand it, you're going to get that bit there. Yeah? So equals negative 3. So if I now want to put this negative 3 by the side of this perfect square, it becomes x minus 2 all squared plus 3. So your q equals 3. So that's how to find the value of that q. Can you see? Because by the time you bring it here, this is still like the first example we done. Okay, guys, I'm going to do some more examples. You can see they're all the same step, but different kind of objective achieved. The first one, you were able to write it in completed square form, meaning you know how to put it into square form. Yeah. The second one, you have to look for the missing part of your square form, which you put together with that side of the square form. Now the third is to be able to solve equations by completing the square. That's the third lesson objective. But because they are all of the same step, I'll carry on, because that means we're doing more examples, but different broken down steps. So I'm going to carry on. So say you have something like x squared plus 6x minus 7 equals 0. And this is how you know the first ones we had, there wasn't anything like equals 0. When it's equals 0, then it becomes a full equation that you need to solve. The rest were more like expressions, isn't it? Because it didn't have equals 0, and you were asked to find the missing part, or you were asked to write it in completed square form. So here we want to solve, and we'll be going through the same step. First thing is to get rid of that constant number there. So you do x squared plus 6x equals 7. Yeah. Second step is to make sure that both sides I add something to it. And so I have x squared plus 6x. What can I add to it? Half of that middle part, which is a positive 6, and then you square it, equals 7 plus, remember you're adding something to both sides, and that thing you're adding is this bit here, 6 over 2 all squared. All right, so this becomes x squared plus 6x. This is 3 squared plus 9 equals 7 plus 9. And you know what that means, yeah? So now we need to put it in perfect square by doing this all squared, isn't it? Yeah. So what can be in here? Half of this is what's going to be in there. So it's now in a perfect square. Yeah. It's now in a perfect square. But remember, we are solving this problem. We're looking for x. That's what we're looking for. So to find x, if we find another slide there, x plus 3 squared. All right. X plus 3 squared equals 16. That's what we had before. So to solve it, I'm going to do square root of x plus 3 equals square root of 16. But you must remember the plus or minus. You must always put that. So this becomes x plus 3 equals plus or minus 4. All right. So your x becomes, if you put that there, plus 4 minus 3, or your x is minus 4 minus 3. So your x is either 1 or minus 7. So we've solved that. That's what you should have as your answer. So I've done like how many examples now? I think I've done like 4 examples. So I'll do just one more because I don't want you getting confused. Yeah. So I'll do one more. So if you have something like, because they're all same step, let's just do one more. 2x squared minus 10x minus 3 equals 0. Now, the same thing. First step, get rid of the constant number. 2x squared minus 10x equals 3. Now, to make sure that I have only 1 as the coefficient of x squared, divide all of them by 2, and I will have x squared x squared minus 5x equals 3 over 2. Yeah? Please don't get confused. I divided everything by 2. Okay, after getting rid of after making the constant number go on the other side. Now we move on to the second step, which is to add something to both sides to make the equation balanced. So I have x squared minus 5x plus minus 5 over 2 all squared equals 3 over 2 plus, remember we're adding something to both sides to make it all balanced, squared. So this becomes x squared minus 5x. This is 25 over 4, right? So you have plus 25 over 4 equals 3 over 2 plus 25 over 4. Okay, so now this is the bit I'll move to the next slide for. So we have s squared minus 5x. Let's rewrite that. S squared minus 5x plus 25 over 4 equals, can't remember what the other number was. What was it again? 3 over 2. Okay, 3 over 2 plus 25 over 4. Okay, so this one, if you times this by 2 and times that by 2, you're going to get 6 over 4 plus 25 over 4, won't you? So this becomes x squared minus 5x plus 25 over 4. So this becomes 31 over 4. X squared minus 5x plus 25 over 4. I hope I'm not going too fast, guys. But it's the same step. You know what I'm doing in terms of using the same step. So the third step now is to make sure I put it in perfect square, which is to open up a bracket and put it as a square. Then what do I put in here? I put half of this coefficient here, which is minus 5 over 2. Yeah? And if you expand this bit here, you will get this bit here. So you just put it as a perfect square. So equals 31 over 4. Yeah? So now, to solve this, is really straightforward as well to solve it. All we have to do, I guess I have to use a new slide. So x minus 5 over 2 squared. So let's write that again. X minus 5 over 2 all squared equals 31 over 4. So if I do the square root of x minus 5 over 2 all squared, I'll have to do the square root of 31 over 4 too. So this becomes x minus 5 over 2 equals plus minus, always put your plus minus, square root of 31 over 2, because the square root of 4 is 2, isn't it? So your x here becomes square root of 31 over 2 plus 5 over 2, or your x could be minus 31 over 2 plus 5 over 2. Yeah, which basically what we can write all this as let's write it here. X equals 5. Can actually write it as 5 plus minus square root of 31 over 2. I'll write it like that. This is your final answer. Or these two here, it's the same thing. So, you know, square root of 31 over 2 plus 5 over 2, or minus 31 over 2 plus 5 over 2. So you can leave it like this, or you can write it like that. So that's the same thing. So I hope you all understand that. And if you want me to do one more example, but if you get it, I think we should all listen to this one actually. Let me bring up that question. So you have negative x squared minus 6x plus 7 equals 0. Okay, and here what you want to do is to make sure that this becomes a positive number. All right, that's what you want to, I mean, in terms of all this coefficient. But if you were to, what does this even mean when you have a negative coefficient for this x squared? It means when you draw the graph, the quadratic graph, you would have a parabola. Remember when we were drawing quadratic graph, I told you you always get parabola. So you get a parabola that is like this for a negative x, like that one there. Yeah, but we'll come to that. So you get your turning point, and then you also get your y-intercept. So basically, this is something we'll need to talk about later on when we finish, where how you can use completing the square to draft parabolas like this, or quadratic graphs. Okay, so here if we divide all through by -1, we should get x squared. Remember, negative divided by negative is positive, plus 6x minus 7 equals 0. Okay, so this is what your new equation will look like. And then what do? It's the same thing, isn't it? Where you do x squared plus 6x equals positive 7, because you get rid of the constant from that side, and here you end up having to do your second step, which is x squared plus 6x, add something to both sides, and what you have to add is the coefficient there and square it, equals 7 plus whatever you've added to that part as well. Okay, so you end up having x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 7 plus 9. So you end up now having, you now want to put it as a perfect square, which is all brackets squared. What do you put here? You put half of that coefficient there, yeah, equals 16. If you expand this, you will get this bit here. If you expand that, you get this bit here. So if you wanted to write it in completed square form, remember you have to bring this here to become -16, isn't it? And if you put it as -16 on this side, and I was saying what is the value of what you just added on there, obviously I'm sure if you bring it here, it becomes -16. So if the letter was q, you say q equals -16. I hope that makes sense. So, and if you want to solve it, you square root both sides, and you go from there. Or let's just finish it off. Let's finish it. So we have x plus 3 all squared equals 16. So you do square root of x plus 3 all squared, and then do square root of 16 as well. Always put your plus minus, and then you have your x plus 3 equals plus minus 4. So your x becomes, because you take it to the other side, -3 add 4, or -3 take away 4. So your answer is 1 or -7. So that's what your answer will be if you're solving it. So 3 objectives we've made today. we've been able to write in completed square form, square form from the expressions we had. And we also were able to find missing value of parts of parts of the completed square. And lastly, we were able to solve equations, quadratic equations. We were able to solve quadratic equations using completing the square, or by, let's do that again, by completing the square. But like I said, it's easier to use factoring or the quadratic formula to solve. But if you've been specifically asked, especially in GCSE, to complete the square, you have to. So these 3 lesson objectives have been used to solve quadratic equations. So I hope you understand all that. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching the video. I wonder why it's in the chat over there.